So, hello and welcome to the Formula WINOL podcast. Welcome back. This is the first podcast of 2021. As always, I am joined by Tom and Ed. How are you doing today, guys?
Yo,
Hello.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
So, I hope you guys had a good off season as such. Of course, we're barely even we're halfway through it. 10 weeks from either the first race or testing now, I think.
Painful.
I'm
Feels
sure
like
we all
feels like
can't
eternity.
wait. Yeah, it's like the whole uni semester pretty much. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? But anyway, on to more positive things. Did you guys have a good holidays? Good time away?
It was pretty good, you know. It was a lot of obviously it's lockdown in the UK. I don't know where. I mean, I assume most of our listeners are in the UK. So for everyone, it was kind of just a bit dead going back. I'm going back home and sort of not being able to go out, but does mean, you know, more FIFA. I'm sure I can agree.
Yeah.
So it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
Yeah, I've Christmas was good, but it's just dragging on a bit. I just want to get back to uni and
Yeah.
you know, be in the studio really, because the studio is where it's at. The studio's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In it.
So this podcast is going to be the season review podcast. So we're going to wrap everything up of 2020 and then move it to one side. And the next podcast will no doubt be us summing up the winter news and gossip. I think we're kind of waiting out to see will all the news be revealed before we record.
I don't think there's going to be any big announcements. The only one thing would be Hamilton, like just in case he doesn't, for some reason, like after we put it out, he doesn't re-sign and the whole of the F1 community blows up. But I mean, I don't know. I don't see why he wouldn't re-sign.
Or maybe to see if Rich Energy are capping or not.
Yeah. Some of them tweets have been very.
It's going to be on McLaren, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
If it's on McLaren, I'm not going to be happy.
Return the Ricardo merch.
Yeah.
Send it back.
I think that comes out in the start of February, actually, the Ricardo merch.
Ooh. That's where I know all my savings are going.
Get in that queue.
There won't be a queue because I'll be at the front of it.
But yeah. So I guess, you know, the way to I guess the first thing to say, if we just want to jump straight into the review, is, I mean, the start of the year, I think if you were to tell someone we would have got 17 races in, not just in Europe either, like across the globe. I think like everyone would have taken that, and I don't think certainly we were expecting. I mean, when Australia got called off, and there was sort of all the virtual GPs going and whatnot, I think a lot of people kind of thought, well, you know, with other sports holding off until 2021, you know, it could have easily just been, yeah, we're just not going to do it. We're just going to hold off until 2021. But yeah, F1, FIA, the organisers, they all did a brilliant job to get the season underway.
Yeah, and we got some cracking races. We got some tracks which are apparently returning this season. We've got Imola confirmed, which is brilliant news. There's chatter of Baku, Canada, and Monaco all being cancelled. In return for the I think it's Portugal and
Mugello, I think,
and probably Mugello as well, I believe. Which again would be cool because, you know, it'd be cool to go back to these tracks. It's due to the street races costing so much more to run, and you have to build the track before you know it.
Yeah.
It takes 6 weeks to build these tracks, and the FIA, they won't want to have to pay money just, you know, to not have a race. But I guess if we jump into our race of the season, maybe, or did you want to go through like the standings and run down that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really like something in detail. The one thing that I will say actually is sort of on that, just before we jump into that, on that sort of, you know, Monaco and whatnot getting cancelled, I saw on Twitter, which isn't necessarily a very trustworthy you know, source of information. I saw that F1 had actually put a statement out about that. I haven't got the direct quote here, but basically that this information was false, and at the moment anyway, that the races are still on the calendar. But of course, there is a lot of reasons why that could change, as you say, like because they take so long to set up. It is kind of a logical thing to think that the races might get cancelled.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys could pick one track to come back this season, where would you pick?
I don't know.
I think my heart says Portimao, although the racing there wasn't amazing. It was okay, but I think Mugello is really good. I think again the actual racing not so much, but just the circuit is a really good circuit. Nürburgring as well. To be fair, the racing there was decent.
It was better than expected.
I don't like the Nürburgring GP track in itself. I personally hate driving it. I don't like it so much, but it's good for racing. So I think all of them. Turkey as well. Turkey, got history. So
I think, like on the whole, there weren't really any like bad races from the new tracks they went to. Like all of them were pretty good, from memory anyway. I think if I had to bring one back, I'd have to go with Turkey, just because I think the track is, I guess, probably the best for racing. I mean, with Imola and Mugello, like they're great tracks to drive on, but if you're looking purely at like overtaking opportunities, they're quite like thin tracks, and I don't think they would provide possibly as much good racing as Turkey did, especially if like we've still got this situation where they're the surface still isn't 100%. But yeah, I to be honest, I'd be happy with any of them. I think it's good that Imola's coming back. It's just a shame about Australia, but then we'll get more into that in the winter news.
Yeah, of course. I personally would pick Spa backwards or the rallycross track at Abu Dhabi, but we all have different opinions.
Just a massive jump across the port.
Absolutely. So generally, were there anyone who stood out constructors this season? Anyone who you were surprised where they finished?
I mean, I guess
the obvious
I would say,
Ferrari.
Yeah, I think obviously the obvious one is Ferrari. I think if I had to pick one, I would have to say Racing Point, and I'd have to say they extremely underperformed because, like, if you watched pre-season and coming into Australia, they were like arguably the second or third fastest car. Like there are a lot of people saying that they were going to be just as quick as Red Bull, and they were sort of clear of the midfield. And through, obviously their drivers like got COVID and different stages of the season, and there were sort of bits of that where it wasn't in their control necessarily. But I think through some possibly some poor strategy decisions, as well as Stroll, he got the pole in Turkey, which was great, but I think Stroll didn't really do the car justice quite. If you're just looking at purely points, he didn't do the car justice as much as Sergio did. And so I think for them to not get third in the constructors was like, that was a big performance from them.
My underperformance of the season, I would pick Renault as one of them. They got 3 podiums, yes, but without Daniel Ricciardo there, their season would have been shocking. I think they could have even finished behind AlphaTauri for say if they had this season, like if they had say, I don't know, a less good driver, if they'd brought someone up from the academy instead of signing Ricciardo.
Yeah, like a Zhou or something.
Yeah,
and then
that. I mean, I was surprised by Racing Point as well. They were so far ahead in winter testing, and I just expected so much more of them ahead of the season. My underperformer of drivers was Alexander Albon.
Kane.
Obvious reasons. Max had 11 podiums. Albon had 2.
Me twitching to not argue.
I don't think there is an argument though, is there?
There isn't. That's my point.
118 points behind Max in the end. So I think a season of development is the best thing for him. I think he's he's a lovely lad, but he should be 4th at minimum.
I think the quicker I move on from this, the better. I think my underperformance, Racing Point, or Ferrari. Obviously, they're the obvious choices. But I think for my overperformers, I'd go AlphaTauri because
Yeah.
I'd say constructors wise, they probably finished about where you'd expect them to be in terms of actual position. They were a lot closer to the top. I think they finished 5th or 6th in the end, but they were a lot closer to those top 5 teams. And obviously the win for Gasly helped, but there was other good performances throughout the season where you'd think, oh, they're at the back, they're mid to back markers kind of thing.
They were 7th, the constructors this season, which is crazy.
Yeah,
it just shows how close the midfield was.
Yeah, it's where you'd expect them to be in terms of that actual table, but their performances throughout the season were much better than 7th overall.
Exactly. I mean, it just shows how crazy this year's been because I didn't even really sort of clock this, but Ferrari finished 6th in the constructors. That's crazy. I mean, were they 2nd last year or 3rd? I can't quite remember.
I think they were 2nd.
But yeah, 2nd to 6th is a big gap, and it just shows how far behind the Ferrari powered engines were because it goes. Obviously, you've got Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, and then you've sort of got those 4 midfield teams that sort of all got 100, in that sort of region of 200 to 100 points, and then below that, there's a gap of almost 100 points to the last 3 teams. It just shows how much the Ferrari powered cars were just nowhere this year.
So in 2019, Ferrari was 2nd. They had 10 more podiums than Red Bull. Of course, Red Bull were going through their driver mix-up and they had no idea what they were doing. The positive of Red Bull's driver lineup this season is that it made it much closer because last season, in 2019 rather, Red Bull came 3rd with 417 points and the next one behind him was McLaren on 145. But then this season, Red Bull had 319 points and McLaren scored 202, so it's much closer together. In terms of my overperformers of the season, so on a more positive note than the underperformers, my overperformers of the season are obviously McLaren. I'm now a McLaren fan, in case you didn't know.
Wonder why that is.
Paris Saint-Germain fan as well. I picked up some new clubs and teams I support over the off-season. And
he's now also a Chiefs fan in the NFL.
No, absolutely not. I was until halfway through the 3rd quarter. And honestly, my overperformance season, I think I'd put Daniel Ricciardo or Sergio Perez. I don't think Renault I think Renault had the car. I'm not entirely sure Racing Point had the car to beat the McLaren either. Because they just didn't develop it that much seemingly. But those 2 drivers had a massive year. I can't wait to see. I hope Sergio gets a seriously good season in that Red Bull.
I hope it depends on the car and whether he can get used to it and what car they give him.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm gonna go with obviously what you two have. If you two hadn't have said what you said for the overperformers, I probably would have picked one of them. But I think what I would say would be my overperformer that I want to talk about as well is Mercedes. I actually think they overperformed. I mean, you could argue that maybe Ferrari and Red Bull underperformed, but there were some people, and I was sort of looking at this. There were some people in the F1 community that, when making predictions for this year, thought it was going to be a hell of a lot closer. There are a lot of people that actually put Verstappen winning the championship this year. One thing springs to mind is Tomo. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that they had obviously they were the most favourable option to win it. They were the most likely to win it, but to win it in the way that they did was crazy. I think this has been the most dominant Mercedes car that we've had. And then
sure.
To go for a driver, I mean, there was a lot of overperformers. I think if I had to go with one that you guys haven't said already, I think I'd have to pick Leclerc. Just dragging that Ferrari up the grid.
Twitter meltdown.
and dragging it wide at the second last corner.
Yeah. Also.
Oh, he made one mistake. Oh.
He may have had a stupid mistake.
I think
Turkey.
that Albon comment touched a nerve.
There's going to be beef between them two for the rest of the podcast.
Absolutely.
But when you look at the sort of standings, when you consider that Ferrari was 6th, Leclerc finished ahead of a lot of the drivers that were in teams that finished above Ferrari. So when you look at it in that context, plus the fact that he got 2 podiums, which is joint highest of any midfield driver, I believe.
I think Leclerc and Ricciardo.
Yeah. So no, I think it was a really strong season for Leclerc. It will be interesting to see how he does with Sainz. But I do think that he'll get the better of Sainz.
The Twitter lefties are going mad at Ferrari.
But yeah, I guess probably a time to talk about our race of the year. We've kind of touched on each of the different topics. There are a lot of good races this year. I think in terms of excitement, this year was, I don't know, do you guys think we had a better season this season than last season?
Yes.
I definitely.
I think it's the best season we've had in a very long time.
I think in living memory, other than maybe 2008 and 2010,
2016 and maybe was it 2012 when we had like
2012
in the finale.
The early 2010s and 2016.
Well, the first half of 2017 and 2018.
True, because you had Vettel.
Half a season up until Spa.
Basically, half the years of the last decade, they've been good. But I'd say this is probably one of the better years we've had in quite a while.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I'd probably have to put it at the top. If you were just going off the turbo hybrid era years, I'd put it top. I think 2016 was pretty good. 2017 and 2018, like they had good parts of it. 2019 was like, it was okay, like it was all right. But yeah, I think this season, with sort of the unpredictable results, obviously because you had sort of out of the top teams, Ferrari was out of it, so there was sort of a much bigger chance for underdogs to get podiums and wins. And then obviously you had, Ed's going to hate me for saying this, but you had one Red Bull car that wasn't necessarily always where it was when
I've
you
taken
had
the L at this point
and Ricciardo in there. But no, I think it was a good season. I think in terms of the races, there were some boring ones, but I think all in all, like we had a lot of really, really good races. Like when you go back and look at it, there was some really, really good races in there. So yeah, what would you, if you guys had to pick one race that is your favorite, that springs to mind, what would you guys go for?
I think I need a second to think.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to say Sakir. I think the unpredictability of the fact that Hamilton wasn't there. I think Russell massively outperforming where everyone expected he'd be until he screwed his own race by leaving his radio on. And obviously Perez winning was a big part of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was my favourite race of the year, because obviously it was basically the second Albon lost his seat after that race. So, but I'd say it was definitely the best. I think if we're talking about my favourite race of the year, it would be the 70th anniversary, because it was the one race where Max Verstappen was like, screw you Red Bull pit wall, I am going to do this. And he did it and he won. So it shows that the pit wall don't always know what's best.
Yeah.
And
the stats aren't always right.
Let the drivers.
Red Bull don't always know what's best.
that too. That's always up in the air. But it just shows drivers, sometimes they're the ones in the car. They know what they can do, what their capabilities are. And if you let them do their thing, they can go out and win the race for you.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the highlight of Verstappen's season, just because like it was on the same track that it was in the race before, the British Grand Prix, and it just showed how much like he outperformed the car that weekend to be ahead of the Mercedes, as dominant as it was.
To be fair, he nearly won the British Grand Prix too if Hamilton's tyre
exactly.
corner earlier.
Yeah, one more lap and he would have.
That's a shout for race of the year as well. Just the last 5 laps where everyone's tyres kept going.
Yeah, that was crazy because it was Bottas first, wasn't it?
It was Bottas. I nearly said it was the Ferraris, but that was like 2016 or whatever. Why does Silverstone have such a high puncture ratio? Like 2013, everyone's tires blew up. 2015 or 16, the Ferrari's tires blew up, and then this year with Hamilton and Bottas. I think that was after Kvyat's crash. It might have been. There was some There was after Raikkonen's. The Raikkonen's front wing went or something, and it left debris on the track, which they didn't clean up properly.
I swear there was another year as well. I swear it happened twice with the Ferraris. Because
I think it happened. I think it was Raikkonen had it first.
Yeah.
And then right on the last lap, Vettel had it as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was different years.
But no, I guess it's just like the high-speed corners, to be fair. But yeah, I think both of them are good shouts. I think Sakir was a really good race. I think we weren't expecting it to be as eventful as that. Like there was definitely a lot of things that sort of were, I don't want to say lucky, but sort of worked its way into making it a good race. Like obviously with Hamilton getting COVID, and you had that storyline of Russell being put in the Mercedes. Actually, one of my I have to say one of my favorite moments of the season, where I sort of was going crazy watching the race, was when Russell got the jump into Bottas into turn one. I mean, that was incredible. And yeah, I think the F2 had a couple of really strong races there as well. Because there was sort of that I forget what the turn numbers were, but sort of where Russell pulled the move off on Bottas. That we didn't think that was going to be an overtaking opportunity, but it was, and there was quite a few good overtakes there. But yeah, Torin, what about you?
So I have a few. I'm going to run through probably all of them, because I've only got a handful. So essentially, for my least favorite race of the year, because I'm going to go from the angle first of all, I'm going to go straight in with Bahrain, because I hated it. I didn't want it to go ahead. I didn't enjoy a moment of it. It was grim. That was the day that Chelsea versus Spurs was as well, I think. And I was in a group call watching the race, and they were watching the match as well, and their match was like 20 seconds ahead of mine. So that wasn't fun either. So that entire day was
just awful. Anticipating them to go crazy as the goal goes in, but nothing happens.
Dude, honestly, I was fully just that race. No, that's how. So for emotional content, it's between Turkey and the Eiffel GP, because after the Eiffel GP, I went absolutely mental.
Yeah.
Because Daniel Ricciardo finally got a podium, and it had been for the weekend. It was for me. I was so happy that had come good. For personal reasons, I've never been quite as emotional as I was. I don't think. Sakir, good again. Could have been better if Renault hadn't borrowed Ferrari strategists, because Ricciardo would have won that race.
Yeah.
Same with British Grand Prix. If Hamilton's puncture had come a lap earlier, then it would have been Verstappen, Leclerc, Ricciardo. It's just counting off the amount of times things could have gone better. But yeah, I think my race of the season is probably the Eiffel GP. It was pretty dull for what it could have been, but it had Nico Hülkenberg and it had Ricciardo getting a podium.
True.
And I personally can't ask for more than that.
No. And it had that. It wasn't like, I mean, a lot of people would say that it was luck, Ricciardo getting the podium, but I completely disagree with that when you look at what I think was one of the moves of the season, when he went round the outside of turn 2 on Leclerc, which was such a good move in these cars.
Oh yeah.
Good move, but I'd still say it's luck because of Bottas conking out.
Yeah. But then I guess a lot of the midfield podiums you could argue were luck. I would say pretty much all of them.
Same with Albon's podiums. They're all luck. Everyone's anything.
So Albon going to see.
Yep. Cheers. Thank you.
No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, I think for me, I would have to go. I'd have to go for Italy. I was surprised you two didn't say it. Actually,
I think that race was heavily overrated. It was a good race.
Yeah.
And I was over the moon for Pierre. I was over the moon for Carlos. But I
wasn't over the moon for Carlos.
Okay, well, I was, but fine. as a partial McLaren fan, I'm an everyone fan.
I like everyone doing well. I was actually
Yeah.
happy for Carlos. I was so happy with that race that I have a signed Gasly hat from this season. I'm not even an AlphaTauri fan, but I got as much merch of the teams I actually support as I did of a team I don't support.
I'm just trying to get that Albon cap flap snapback before they go out. Waiting for them to go on sale, but
this is what student loans are for, Ed.
Mine's gone to rent. I have none left.
But yeah, no, I thought it was. Yeah, I think it is definitely like I would agree that it is an overrated race, but I think if you're talking about the races of the season, you'd be silly not to mention it.
Yeah, it's definitely up there in one of the better races of the season.
Yeah, but I think like if you're talking about and just putting it down to like moments where I was like most on the edge of my seat, like the last few laps of that Italian Grand Prix was crazy. I'm trying to think, was there that much battling in the midfield that race? It might have been a bit of a dead midfield race.
Where was that for Italy?
Yeah.
I think all I remember is Hamilton's fight back. Like, other than that, it was kind of just.
It was kind of a bit static.
It was just like a train.
Yeah. Which is surprising really for Italy, because you'd think it, with all those huge straights, you think there'd be a bit more overtaking. But yeah, there's sort of the rest of them was sort of decent. I think we got some good ones there. I mean, the only other ones that maybe we haven't talked about or touched on was Portugal. Was a bit boring, but you had Raikkonen's start, which was like crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the thing that got me about Monza is that when Bottas dropped back, everyone was like, "Oh my god, the Mercedes car isn't built to follow again; it can't overtake." And then Hamilton dropped back and fought through the entire field.
Yeah.
I think he finished ahead of Bottas.
He did. I'm pretty sure. I might have to double check that, but I swear he did.
Let me double check.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did beat Bottas. Yeah.
He didn't. He finished 7th. Bottas finished 5th. But still,
I mean, not far off.
He got through a lot of cars.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the end of the day, well, I think the most annoying thing about Monza that I'm still not really over is that there's a rule is the Stroll rule that they got away with the tyre change.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
They changed his tyres during the red flag, didn't they?
Yeah. I think that rule. I think that's that. Some people could say it's BS. I think it's fair enough, because.
I mean, yeah. At the same time, yeah, it's like pitting under a safety car or a virtual safety car. If you're not going to shut the pit lane during that, or changing tyres during that, then during a red flag is fine as well, because you get the same advantage. It
was funny seeing all the Hamilton fans crying over his penalty, though. Like, man, he broke the rules. He didn't look at the thing. It's his own fault.
Exactly.
Same with Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi was on who broke down. Whoever else it was that did it as well.
I can't remember who else did it, honestly.
It was Giovinazzi that broke down, that closed the pit lane.
Yeah.
No, it's Magnussen that broke down.
Was Magnussen? Oh, it must have been Giovinazzi that also did it then.
Yeah, that does ring a bell.
Into the barrier with the big crunch.
Yeah.
And then straight after they went racing again, Magnussen's engine died.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, probably only like a couple of others. Imola was I think was pretty good. It was better than I expected it to be, because Imola is not really known for that good races, to be honest. Like the overtake, it is not that much of an overtaking track. But I mean, you had sort of Gasly he had a really good qualifying, and then he broke down. But Kvyat made up for it. I'm pretty sure, didn't Kvyat finish P4 in the end? He had a really good race. Obviously, Ricciardo's second podium as well, so I was very happy about that. And then I guess maybe not as good for Ed. You had Albon spinning out.
I'm not 100% an Albon fan. All right? I just like him. He's all right. I'm not an Albon fan.
This is true. There are more photos of Ed in Hamilton merchandise.
True.
Oh,
good point.
Quiet. I've literally got 2 Mercedes shirts hung up in my wardrobe, so that's painful.
I think it's easier to accept owning a Mercedes shirt than owning a Vikings jersey at this moment in time.
Yeah.
To leap over so many walls from motorsport to American football. But
Huge
yeah.
subject.
That's what we do here on Formula WINOL.
Exactly.
We
Which
have
is-
two
yeah.
completely
It's
different
diverse.
sports, and we do podcasts on both.
Exactly.
Next, we'll start on tennis.
Yeah.
No,
We're gonna
'cause
do one
tennis
for
isn't
every
sport.
sport.
Tennis, cricket, and snooker aren't sports, and I'll hear
Ooh.
no other argument.
Ooh, the
Uh,
heat.
Okay,
while
tennis
we're
are push.
on
Tennis,
this,
tennis
yeah,
is a
tennis,
sport, but
tennis I'd allow.
cricket and
Darts,
snooker, no.
no.
Darts,
Cricket,
no. Yeah, no.
cricket, there's running. You got to run for the
Yeah, it's
run.
a leisure activity, really, though, isn't it? It's a leisure activity for the upper classes.
Yeah. To
Mm.
be fair. To be fair.
So anyway, we've all picked our race of the year now. It's time for the big award, the big. I guess this is the final award, really, because we've
Yeah.
only really got these 4 awards. We've done the overperforming and underperforming one. Driver of the year, or drivers of the year. I guess we can pick a worst driver of the year as well. Maybe
Yeah,
without
we'll
getting
do that
too
as well.
harsh on it.
Why not?
But
Why not?
Vettel.
I think we go with our worst driver of the year to start with. Each of us going. Tom, why don't you go first?
Okay.
You've got it, of course.
I
No
think
Yeah,
with
pressure.
there's-
you don't even need to say anything. Like it.
There's there's a lot to choose from. That sounds bad, but like there are a lot of people that overperformed, but then also a lot of people that underperformed. I think for me, I'd have to probably go with Bottas. Whether you could argue that maybe they're not being given the same treatment, possibly. And it is very hard. It's not easy being up against a 7-time world champion and one of the goats of the sport. But I do think that he's showed more promise in other years. And sort of there are a lot of races where at the very least he should be finishing behind Hamilton, but he was like getting beaten, or there was sort of like certain times. I mean, Ed touched on it. Like I think Italy was quite a good example where Hamilton showed that he could cut through the field in the Mercedes. Like it can be done, but there were multiple times this year where Bottas would just get stuck behind traffic, not like blue flag traffic, but just like general traffic, whether that's after he's pitted, whatever, and he just wasn't able to get through. So I think he lacked a bit of racecraft this year. But yeah,
I think every year. I know this is a driver of the year bit, but let's not forget 2018. He finished 5th in the best car.
True. No, that is true. But yeah, that's who I would pick.
Ed, do you want to go next?
Okay. Yeah, I said it earlier, and I'm gonna stick to it. Sebastian Vettel. I think towards the end of the season, he definitely improved. Obviously, Turkey was a great race for him, but the rest of the season, inexplicable mistakes. Bahrain, where he totally just spun by himself off camera mid corner for no reason. And Vettel fans would go, "Oh, the car." Okay, well, why wasn't Leclerc doing it? Oh, he's got different parts. Okay, well then same thing for Albon. Shut up.
Sound like a university lecturer right now.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say Vettel. His spin at Nürburgring as well. What the hell was that?
Yeah.
He's trying to flick out for an overtake, just yeets it backwards. Like, oh come on, bro.
Not his finest moment.
Not his finest season or 2 seasons. Like he had the win in Singapore last year, you can say, but that was strategical. Hijinks.
Like it was just whoever won that was whoever Ferrari decided to give their strategy to. It wasn't down to the drivers.
So I'd say Sebastian Vettel. I'd say that's probably a bit of a harsh pick from me. Obviously the obvious name jumping off the page would be Alex Albon, but he did have his moments. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball out there as well with one. These kind of my top 3 for worst. I'm gonna go with Kimi Räikkönen.
Yes.
Ooh.
So much yes.
Get him off the grid, please.
Yeah.
Stop wearing memorabilia of times that we don't discuss and go.
If I speak.
Yeah. No, it's a really controversial thing to bring up because everyone goes, "Oh, but it's what bike is wearing." It's like, right, but if Kevin Magnussen had showed up with a Confederate flag on his livery, he would have been banned forever.
Yeah.
Like.
That is a point, but I think more so for the reason I think he's he's just past it. He's obviously doing it just for fun now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo say they're keeping him as a good. He's good for setting up the car, but he doesn't give a shit. Sorry, he doesn't care. He's just like, I here to race. He costs Calamari a lot of seat just because he wants something to do on the weekends.
Yeah, that's
When I
the thing
drive,
that's
I
most
take
annoyed
my
me.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Giovinazzi probably also doesn't deserve a seat, but he had a decent season, something like that. But yeah, I'd say Albon, Vettel, and Raikkonen are my 3 worst drivers of the year.
Albon, Vettel, and Raikkonen. Right. I think my worst player of the year: Latifi, Aitken, and Fittipaldi. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. Albon, first of all, don't even have to explain it, really, do I? He only finished 7 points ahead of Leclerc, and that really does say it all.
Yeah.
So many opportunities. Of course, yeah, like you can say, Brazil he got crashed into, and that damages his confidence, and then he comes back in Austria, and then his confidence. But you can't have that.
Yeah.
You can't have a whole season ruined by one crash.
I think you can argue
Not
it's
in
like the
F1.
car as well, but you know,
Yeah, but you can
even
you
if
can
it is
argue
the
that
car, you should
There's
be struggling.
arguments
the
to be
Ferrari,
had.
the
There's a
Ferrari
point
car is
to
built
have
around
to
Leclerc because they've kept Leclerc and they've lost Vettel. Obviously, the Red Bull car is built around Max because he drives on a knife edge. He doesn't drive like every other driver on the grid.
Yeah.
But most cars are built to one driver, other than teams like, say, McLaren or AlphaTauri, who have 2 equal drivers. Who there's no point in favouring the other one because the drivers are almost on a par.
Although you can bet design the car around Ricciardo next year.
What McLaren? Yeah, of course they will, because if they do, they could challenge for the title with a Mercedes power unit in the car, in my opinion. Unless Red Bull can. I mean, of course, with the cars staying pretty much the same, we won't have the Red Bull issue of the start of the season them being slow. So maybe we'll see a different Red Bull.
I think this is on a bit of a tangent, but I think everyone's really gassing up McLaren next year. But I don't think it's going to be a good season for them.
I don't know.
Everyone's like,
oh,
Mercedes engine.
Yeah, but you've got to remember how you've got to think about how they're going to house that into the same chassis they used with the Renault.
I mean, you saw what happened with Honda.
Yeah, and we saw it in the first season with Renault after Honda because they had to totally rehouse the engine.
Next year, it will be difficult for them. I think Ricciardo is going to have another season where he's not going to be anywhere near a podium.
I don't think that. I think they will still be. I think McLaren will come 4th with Aston Martin 3rd. I think all this rubbish about Red Bull winning the constructors is not going to happen.
Yeah, of course not.
It's going to be a Hamilton.
Everyone gassing up Perez as well. He's going to be barely any better than Albon was. I think
he'll be better than Albon.
He'll be way better than Albon.
He'll be better. Okay,
Albon
be better than
stands
Albon.
in the chat.
It would still be as far behind Verstappen.
Nah,
in terms of the pace.
I see a lot of Red Bull
it'll be the same pace, but there'll just be less mistakes, obviously, because Perez has been in the game for 10 years now.
As well.
Yeah, okay.
I honestly, I don't think that. I think we'll see a lot of Red Bull double podiums next season.
I think there will be a more double podiums for Red Bull, but I still think that everyone's like, Perez is automatically going to be winning races every week. It's not going to happen.
No,
he's not better than Verstappen.
Max won't be either. It's going to be this season pretty much version 2.
Yeah, it'll be Hamilton if he's still there, Bottas if he isn't backwards, and then Red.
They should host 2 different races. They should do the race for like the title, which is just Red Bull and Mercedes going around in circles for hours on end, on like the Saturday after quality, or instead of quality, because we'll just do that. We'll just do the 4 of them in championship order, and then on the Sunday we should have every single other driver racing. Could you imagine how good the racing would be?
That would be amazing, honestly. That'd be amazing.
Like, you would see like the battles. It would be like MotoGP when you have battles for the win on the BTCC, even battles for the win on the last lap and stuff like that. I think I don't really have any other like worst drivers.
No, I think maybe Latifi. Like he didn't really.
He did get a point, but Russell wouldn't have any points either if it wasn't for Hamilton.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
true.
I think Latifi. It's harsh to pick him because I'd say he even outperformed that Williams to an extent, not as much as George did, but he has the point. George didn't until he got to Sakir. So yeah, I think Latifi was probably a bit harsh to put anything against him, but let's be honest, this is probably his last year in Formula One. Williams now have their new backing, so they might.
Yeah,
still
but their
need
academy's
something more.
dry. Their academy's washed.
All they've got is Aitken,
Right,
really,
you're
isn't
just and Ticton, but now you're
Oh,
just
right.
going for my feelings. Now I'm gonna cry.
Well, you're a Gantic fan?
No, Aitken fan.
Well, he did a race and he broke a front wing.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was a solid race, to be fair. Like I would have loved to see Aitken get another drive.
Mhm.
I think I was almost as gutted about that as I was about Russell, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it was Abu Dhabi. It was going to be a dull race anyway. It would have been nice to see Aitken get a shot.
Mm.
And then our best driver of the season. I'll go first because I've done my two back to back, and then we'll do it in opposite order. So Tom, you can have
Sure.
some time to think as well. Just quickly, I was looking at the standings on the Formula One website, and it's really satisfying that Kvyat is ahead of Hulkenberg because it goes 26-27. just totally random, but it's really
Oddly
satisfying.
satisfying.
It's really satisfying. In general, I think my driver of the season has to be Ricciardo. I think that Renault was really just not a good car. Ocon, it's his first season back in F1, but 62 points to 119 in the same car. And Ocon
Huge
was
difference.
performing badly. That's an Albon to Verstappen gap with both drivers performing well. I think it was a bad car.
Yeah.
So I will go Ricciardo. Very simple. 2 podiums. Ocon got 1 podium, but honestly, it irks me because it wasn't really a big podium.
No.
That race was just crazy, and I like Ocon. I want to see him succeed, even though I'm a big Gasly fan. and I hate each other. But yeah, my driver season, Daniel Ricciardo. That's Ed's.
Sorry, I'm trying to cough right now. I've got something in my throat.
Oh.
There we go. Right. Brilliant. My driver of the year, I'm going to go with Alex.
Oh, mate. Don't even go there.
I'm going to go, if I'm honest, I didn't hear what Torin said because I was trying to sort my throat out. But I'd say Gasly. I don't know. Did you say Gasly?
No. Who do you think he picked?
Oh, you probably went Ricardo, didn't you?
No.
Yeah. All right, I'll go Gasly then. I think he massively outperformed the AlphaTauri. The win, obviously, highlight. But he was always there and thereabouts. Other than I think there was one race. I think he only didn't get into Q3 once or twice all season. Which, considering you're in a junior team car, that is not bad at all. Considering where he was last year, I'd go Gasly. Obvious choice as well would be Hamilton, but I don't fancy giving him too much credit. So Gasly.
I think
just to add to that point quickly as well,
sorry,
it's kind of annoying now that I didn't pick Gasly. Gasly got less podiums than Stroll and finished on the same points.
Yeah.
That sums it up because
he's been very consistent.
Again, 125 points for Perez, 75 points Stroll. Imagine if Gasly had been in the racing point.
Exactly, and imagine if he didn't retire in Imola, he would have finished ahead, and he would have got a podium. I think. Wait, no, is that right? Would he got a podium? I don't know.
He was 4th or 5th at the time. He would have definitely had a decent.
Oh, of course he would have done. Yeah, because Max then retired. Yeah, as long as they got the strategy right, of course he would have got a podium.
Yeah, because was Gasly ahead of Ricciardo before he retired?
He would have been ahead of everyone if he was 4th.
Ricciardo was like 7th or 8th at the start. He jumped up from that safety car.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, if his car didn't go boom, then yeah, he would have been ahead. I think
after Monza as well.
Possibly.
Was it?
Maybe.
No,
maybe
Imola was quite a bit after Monza. It was Monza was round 8. Italy was Imola rather was round 13.
Right. I think Gasly certainly is the most improved driver from this year to last year. Like the season that he had last year, he obviously was in that Red Bull. He didn't perform. He was sort of went back to AlphaTauri downtrodden. Obviously he was on a upward, so you could say was on a upward trajectory coming into this year because obviously he had the podium in Brazil. But I think just the consistency he's shown this year. A lot of people focus on the win. I would more just focus on, as I said, like his qualifying performances and just his general like consistency this year. I think You two have actually chosen the ones that I was going to go for, but there are still like a lot of good drivers here to pick from. I would go for Sergio Perez. Yes, the Racing Point was a great car this year, but when you look at where Stroll is, 75 points compared to Perez's 125, there's a huge gap there, and it would have been more if his car doesn't blow up in Bahrain. So I think, yeah, he had a really, really solid season. Obviously getting that win and a couple of podiums to boot as well. I think, I would certainly put, if I had to rank them, I would certainly put Ricciardo and Gasly top. And then I would maybe put Perez below that. But yeah, that's who I would go for.
Cool. So we got quite a good spread there. Like all three of us, very good reasons for all our choices. Is there anything else to talk about? Really?
I mean, there were a couple of other drivers which I guess probably deserve a mention. Obviously, there's only three of us. There's only going to be three drivers that we pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to mention Alex Albon.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Alex.
You know, Ed, for our first podcast where we're all together as a group, I'll bring you an Albon snapback.
Really?
We'll crowdfund you one.
Yeah, we're gonna get a GoFundMe.
Wow. I mean, I think they're only about 20 quid, so I could probably afford one. I just want to wait till they're really cheap.
The problem with that is that they may not exist. Oh, you can get on 15 quid. It's on offer.
Oh, damn. I'm gonna get on that in a minute.
I'll drop a link in there. $14.95 from Red Bull store with the logo on it.
On the Red Bull shop.
That is still
F1 shop.
There you go, Red Bull shop.
All right. Well, I'm starting to type that.
We know what Ed's
right
going to be doing
now.
Ed's typing in his card details right now as we're just continuing the podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
Rapidly types
you literally hear it.
That was just gibberish. You said it really loudly for effect.
But yeah, I think to mention a couple of other drivers, I'd have to go with, I think Hamilton does deserve a mention. It's the obvious choice, but like he has been the best driver this year. Yes, he's in the best car, but he's just been like even more dominant than he has been before, and I don't see it stopping. He's had I don't know how many wins he had this season, but he completely just mudded Bottas. So it was a really strong season for him. Max had a solid season. I wouldn't say it was his best. He had a pretty good season. Obviously, he had a couple of wins. And then the other names that we've got written down here, obviously Leclerc, I kind of mentioned before, and George Russell as well. No points if it wasn't for Mercedes, as you've said, but I think certainly his qualifying performances speak for themselves against Latifi, and yeah, just his general being able to get suited into that Merc so quickly. I think he definitely outperformed in that Merc, because to hop into a completely new car. I mean, he had to wear a smaller size shoe, for God's sake. And he still did so well.
A lot into getting, to be able to drive in that race. And
yeah,
he deserves the recognition for it. Of course, the race, he only got it because of Hamilton's positive test, but he still did a great job.
He deserved the chance, I think, at that point, especially when you look at how Bottas was doing. It kind of was good fortune, but I think he's been in F1 long enough, and he's put in these performances long enough to deserve a chance. Even if it wasn't in Mercedes, I think he has deserved a chance like that for a long time in a good team.
I have an update on the Albon hat. It's actually 18 quid for adults. Ooh. And another £9 for delivery. So
you're still saving the money though.
Yeah, I'm not spending 27 quid on it.
What, is this not an adult one? Is this one size?
No, the 15 one is youth.
But it just says, it does say youth. I'm sure you could squeeze in one.
Yeah, that'd be alright.
Definitely not.
Just shave your head and then shave a bit of the
And on the
skull
on the F1 shop, it's 28 quid as it is. So I think I'm gonna pass.
Oh, you may miss out for good though.
Yeah, we are gonna have to start that that
It's like
funding.
half price. Why are you turning that down? It's normally 34.95.
Because he wants to prove he's not a devout Albon stan. That's why.
Because I'll probably get some McLaren merch instead.
I'll just continue plugging that photo of Ed with the Hamilton logo shirt.
Oh,
We're not gonna stop. We are not.
It's me at the British Grand Prix. I don't care what happens.
No, it's the photo from the studio.
Oh, that one even worse.
I have a photo of you with it turned around so it has the Hamilton logo on it.
It's a cool. It's a cool cap.
It's a cool cap, but then when you turn it around, it's got Hamilton's logo on it, and then you are a Hamilton fan.
See, I've got a Mercedes cap, but from 2014, but it's not a Hamilton cap. So I'm just about being let off there because it doesn't have Hamilton anywhere on it.
You are a Liverpool fan, though.
Yeah, but come on, man. What's that got to do? What's that got to
It's got a lot to do with it.
Finesse.
Mudded.
Bagged.
All these awful words that we. Did you use the word mudded in your essay at all?
Probably.
No.
Probably, no.
How did I say mudded, didn't I?
It's like your favourite word.
Yeah. This article got mudded when
This article got mudded by the
The
sun.
Daily Mail got mudded.
Yeah, I definitely did not say that.
Well,
but
unless anyone else got anything to add to the end of season review, we can round off.
yeah. I think we've covered most bases. I think we certainly were. I said at the start, I'll say it again. We were lucky to get the season that we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no, it's bring on 2021. Whether we'll do we could always do like a preview for 2021 if we wanted to. But if not, then looking forward to 2021.
Quick GG, well played to FIA.
Yeah. GG's.
Prayers in the chat.
It was well played.
Was indeed. Still rapidly trying to find something for cheap in the F1 store, but it's all too expensive.
Well, then we'll end it there. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you for listening.
We'll end on Ed's misery.
And
thank you for listening again and supporting the podcast. And we will be back sooner than we were before this one.
Yes. Hopefully with some winter news.
Yeah, hopefully. Could you imagine?
Hopefully.
Anyway, for now.
there is no news.
Yeah, for now that is all. Thank you again for listening, and thank you guys for doing the podcast.
No worries.
All good. Bye.
Yeah.